Joining me on set, two great ones, Miranda Devine, ace New York Post columnist, Fox News contributor, and if that weren't enough, Ari Fleischer, former White House press secretary and also a Fox News contributor. I'm not going to burden you with IEPA and stuff like that. I am going to burden you, though, with Jimmy Kimmel, who's gone. All right, it's put out. And we have some sound on this. But before I do, I just want to say this. A lot of people are blaming Brendan Carr, who was the chair of the Federal Communications Commission, okay? People should go back and look at it. The people who pulled the plug on Jimmy Kimmel were the affiliates of ABC, Nexstar and Sinclair, who have given us some common sense because what he said was so inflammatory and basically incorrect. Now, here's Mr. Trump on this Kimmel firing on Air Force One. Please take a listen.
Kimmel look, he was fired, he had no talent. He's a whack job, but he had no talent. When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, that's all they do. If you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative on in years or something, somebody said. But when you go back and you take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that. They're an arm of the Democrat Party.
All right. So as I understand it, Miranda, start with you. Jimmy Kimmel basically said, you could say he inferred, but he said that the evil shooter of Charlie Kirk was a MAGA person, was a pro-Trump person. That's essentially what he said, as I understand it. I don't watch any of those shows, so I don't know. But I read you in the New York Post, and you know. Is that correct?
That's exactly what he said. It's exactly wrong. And it's also a narrative that the left was trying to spin after the assassination. You know, saying CNN even on Monday, this Monday, 2 days ago, was saying, oh, we don't even know what the motive is, which is just ridiculous. It was obvious from the start. As soon as you saw what the bullet casings had written on them, take this or catch this fascist, what the motive was. And the more information that has been released by the FBI, by the police, by the Utah governor, it's clear what the motive is. This was a hate crime against Charlie Kirk by someone who thought he was hateful and a fascist. And so Jimmy Kimmel is not a comedian. He was just a Democrat propaganda merchant, and his ratings were in the toilet. I do think, you know, that he was axed because Nexstar and Sinclair, their audience is not interested in his kind of poison. And so it was an easy decision to get rid of him, and ABC saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah, and ABC is a particularly weak network because they don't have many of their own affiliates, particularly outside of the big cities, the left-wing big cities like New York or Chicago or Los Angeles.
So they rely on them.
That's correct. And if I understand it, Ari Fleischer, another part of this from Nexstar and Sinclair, they're holding some kind of memorial service or commemoration service to celebrate Charlie's life. I mean, it's gone that far away from Jimmy Kimmel.
They're running it in his slot.
Well, this is a reflection of how markets work.
Yeah.
They're running it in that slot because they think they're going to get more viewers, and they make an editorial judgment. Look, I have never believed or wanted to be the type of person that dictates who should get hired or fired. I think you have to leave that up to the employer and the employee. They know the relationship. They know this is a one-time aberration, but this is a superior worker. We're going to keep them on. Or is this person a problem? That's often a business judgment. ABC made their business judgment that when he said something blatantly inaccurate at a very raw time in American history, when people wanted to know who did it and why. And Jimmy Kimmel uses his platform to go out there and say it was MAGA?
Lie.
You can't do that if you are a news organization. Now, he is an alleged comedian. He doesn't report through the news division of ABC, but ABC should have standards. It's up to them. They announced he's firing, and Jimmy Kimmel brought it on himself. If he were more popular, if he had more viewers, maybe ABC wouldn't have done it. He brought this on himself, and then to make that up about MAGA, he got what he deserved.
The roof fell in, and if I'm not mistaken, the district attorney or the U.S. attorney for Utah, in his complaint asking for the death penalty, cited specifically the shooter's left-wing opinions.
Yes,
that was part of the that was part of their judgment, and so that makes it even worse for a guy like Kimmel. It was the stupidest thing he did. You think he's coming back?
blame the victim. He'll probably do what Joy Reid and the rest of them do and just set up a Substack and or like Don Lemon and have his own no viewer YouTube channel. But Don Trump Jr. said something smart. He said it's not cancel culture, it's consequence culture.
I like that very much. You know, Ari, this is, you'd think they'd know better. Just to pause for a moment, all right. You would think somebody, he's educated, Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, you'd think he'd know better. This is a particularly sensitive, sober moment in our time, in this country. You know, this has reverberated, this young man, who I think was an American hero, but the Charlie Kirk shooting has reverberated throughout the United States and around the globe. And how can this guy Kimmel think he can get away with that? I know we're piling on, but I'm just saying, people have to shape up, for heaven's sakes. They just have to be common sense, something. I don't know what it is that's missing here.
This is easy. The reason he thinks he can get away with it is because the left has found a safe bastion in Hollywood, in the big media, and on college campuses and academia. You can say almost anything in any of those places, and you're going to find a support system. And they are so driven to be anti-Trump, to not understand conservatives, how they could take somebody who is as tolerant and even-sided, and he had strong views. But he expressed his strong views in a sharing way, in a respectful way, in a way that I want to hear your point of view. And to them, that makes him a white supremacist. And these type of words echo in the far left chambers that they speak to each other in. So that's why, Larry, he thought he was on safe ground, speaking to the same safe people he always has. It's a slice of America. I think almost all Americans reject it. They don't think like these haters do, and they mourn Charlie Kirk's death. But this slice is the problem. So
here's a good montage that our producers put together. The Democrats, I guess they're either defending Kimmel or it sounds like they're defending Kimmel. Take a listen to this, please.
You get the chairman of the FCC running around basically like the president's enforcer to shut down the late night talk show hosts who are like modern Tom Paines.
It's the playbook. You know, read On Tyranny, read so many books about how authoritarian regimes come about.
He is a wannabe mob boss who will push the envelope to the end of the earth.
It's a page right out of Xi's playbook. This is just despicable, disgusting, and against democratic values. I'm sure there'll be lawsuits about this, and there ought to be right away.
All right. They're talking about Brendan Carr, the chair of the Federal Communications Commission, who has been pushing all the networks and all the media to be more truthful. Okay, as you say, what Don Jr. said about there are consequences for this. You just can't say anything you want, anytime you want. But again, I'll come back to this. In large measure, this was not because of Brendan Carr. This was because the affiliates revolted from this ghastly untruth that Jimmy Kimmel said.
It was the market. But also, I think something's changed. And you put your finger on it in the beginning when you said this is a president who won the popular vote. He won every marginal seat. He is a legitimate president. They can't cast him as illegitimate like they did in his first term. Charlie Kirk, now that he's died, more and more people are looking at what he said and finding that they were lied to. So I think that the magic words that those people in that montage, it used to work for them, their sophistry and their trick language. It's not working. People are seeing through it. I think it's very damaging to the left right now. They're in a hole. They're desperate. They're trying to dig out. And let's hope that some of them, at least their audiences, come to their senses.
Two quick things before we leave. It's such a pleasure to have both of you. Ari, Antifa now is labeled a terrorist organization.
I'm all for it. I mean, if this is what it takes to go after one of the most violent groups in America that has shut down Portland, shut down Seattle, launched attacks against ICE facilities in both of those cities. I remember the inauguration in 2017, Donald Trump's inauguration, cars were set on fire. How does that happen at an inauguration? It was Antifa. So why do we have to look the other way? If there are tools that can give law enforcement what they need to go after them, let them do it. It has to be lawful, it has to be in accordance with the law, which is what President Trump said when he made the announcement. Empower people to get after them.
You know, you would think people would want to come to grips with this right now. You would think people would, what Charlie Kirk stood for, what he said during his lifetime, the reasonableness, the civility with which he had discussions back and forth of political issues, and you still have these crazy allies. The other thing I do want to leave without mentioning, Miranda, your podcast with Kristi Noem, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, and your write-up of it today was very interesting. And it was a very long write-up. And I want you to know I read every word of it this morning.
Thank you.
Every single word.
I appreciate it.
Well, I think Kristi Noem is an interesting person.
Yeah.
And I agree with you to some extent. I don't know, underrated, but under-discussed. Now, have we ever in history had a DHS secretary or someone of authority in the cabinet who actually goes on the criminal bus? She's actually there on the ground with the bulletproof vest.
In the Bearcat. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It's dangerous.
It is dangerous.
Yeah.
That's the part, I must confess, that interested me the most. I can't recall anything like this.
Well, certainly her predecessor, Mayorkas, never did it. And look, the troops really respect her. You can see, they told me, the way they behave towards her, it's very different from the way she's portrayed as Ice Barbie. She's a can-do rancher. She rides horses. She ran her family ranch from the age of 22 when her father died. She's someone who, despite appearances, you would not want to underestimate her. And she is very tough. And I think Donald Trump talked about her shooting her dog and kind of ruefully said, well, she said she's tough and she's proved it. And you have to be tough to do this job. She has compassion because it's compassion for America and the victims of the illegal alien criminals that Joe Biden let in.
So she goes on these buses, and then as you're right after the ICE agents, the cops come up and shake her hand.
Ask for autographs.
I mean, it's pretty
They love
interesting.
her.
It's pretty interesting, Ari. I can't think of anybody else. I mean, it has a sort of Teddy Roosevelt feel to it. It's the kind of thing he might do, 100 years ago. Last word.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons illegal immigration has shut down is because we have an administration that talks tough and acts tough.
Yeah.
This is not about passing this regulation or law or what the funding levels are. It's about sending a signal, you won't get away with it, so don't try. You do that through your body language, through the things you say, through just common sense.
Yes.
Finally, we have it.
And you act on it. Terrific stuff, fabulous. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you.
Miranda Devine, appreciate it. Ari Fleischer, appreciate you.
you.
Get your plane. We got you out early. You'll miss all the Midtown traffic,
drive.
as I promised at lunch.